Good Shabbos. Watch the end of the video for a tip of how to make money. This week we read how Abraham is commanded by God to go to Israel. And then he comes to the land of Israel and there's a hunger. So he goes to Egypt. When he gets to Egypt, he sees how the people are looking at Sarah. He realizes we're in a dangerous situation here. We don't know what they could do. By the way, my son-in-law and daughter last year or so went to Egypt. They were in Israel, they went to Egypt, and he tells me that there was a European couple in front of them. And with the passport control agent looks at this couple, the young lady, and then looks at her passport. He says to her, "Ooh, you're quite beautiful. I'm going to keep your picture from your passport with me." And then when their turn goes, he looks at Razel, my daughter, and he says something similar. And then he says he gives him a death stare, and the guy changes, becomes a little bit more professional, if you like. So things haven't changed in 4,000 years. Abraham says to Sarah, "Listen, if they know I'm your husband and they want you, they'll kill me to have you. So we're going to say you're my sister, or you're going to say that you're my sister." Now the question is, how could Abraham endanger Sarah like this? Why would he protect himself on her back? It makes no sense for someone as righteous as Abraham to do this. How could he? We see Abraham wasn't afraid, wasn't shy, wasn't afraid to go to war when needed. Just a few chapters later, in this very same portion, he goes to war to save his nephew. He goes to war against 4 kings. Why isn't it that he doesn't fight for Sarah? It seems very much incongruous to the person that we know Abraham is. Now, the Ramban Nachmanides actually says that Abraham made a mistake by leaving Israel to Egypt when God told him to go to Israel. And when one mistake led to the next by saying this to Sarah. The problem with that answer is that we see Abraham does it again. A few portions time, they go to a place called Gerar, and they tell the people there that Sarah is his sister. And then his son Yitzchak does the same with his wife Rivka. If it was a mistake, he wouldn't have repeated it. There must be something more behind this. So one of the answers given by the Barbanel and Sforno is that simply this was a delay tactic. You know the story of the wealthy nobleman who didn't know what to do with his money. He had this beloved dog, and he had an advisor who told him, "I'll tell you what, you make a decree. Tell the Jews, they're very smart, tell the Jews that they have to teach your dog how to sing. And if they don't teach your dog how to sing, you'll kick him out of the land. And anyone who does teach him how to sing, you'll reward handsomely." So there was this poor tailor who came to the nobleman and says, "I'll teach your dog how to sing. It's going to take me 7 years, and I'll need many thousands of golden coins, golden rubles." And the nobleman gladly gave it to him, gave him the dog, gave him the golden rubles. He comes home to his wife with the money and the dog, and she says to him, "What's this?" And he tells her what he's doing. She says, "Are you crazy? How are you going to teach a dog how to sing?" He said, "Listen, I have 7 years. In 7 years, I could die, the parrots could die, the dog could die, anything could happen." So Abraham, when he says, that you're my sister, at that time, let's remember, the brother was usually the kingmaker, the one who was the shadchan, the one who was going to decide who his sister is going to marry. We see that when Abraham sends his messenger Eliezer to find a wife for Rivka. Who does he negotiate with? Who does he talk to? Rivka's brother, Lavan. And when the Shechem and Hamor want to marry Dinah, want to take Dinah, who do they talk to? Yaakov's sons, Dinah's brothers. So we see that the brother had a great role in the marriage of a sister. So Abraham thought, is saying to Sarah, listen, we'll go there. I'll negotiate with this one, negotiate with that one. We'll delay things. We'll get some food. We'll take it with us. We'll go back to Israel and run away. So all this was a delay tactic. But if they think I'm your husband, they'll kill me and take you. Like this, they think the brother, okay. That was one of the answers. And that also explains the question of why say you're my brother. If you want to disconnect, if you want to disassociate with Sarah, all you should say is, I don't know her. I have nothing to do with her. I'm just standing in line next to her. She asked me to carry her bags for her. That's all I'm doing. But because he wants to be the kingmaker here, so to delay things, that's why he did that. Okay, that's the answer. But the problem with that answer is, once things got sticky, once they took Sarah to Pharaoh's home, where's Abraham fighting that? Where's Abraham doing something about it and stopping her? Instead, he says, oh, it'll be good for me. They'll give me money for you. What? The Zohar gives a different perspective. We see something interesting between our forefathers and foremothers. Foremothers were in many ways at a greater spiritual level than our forefathers. There is a debate in next week's Torah portion between Abraham and Sarah about the education of their children, by Yitzchak and Yishmael. And Sarah wanted Abraham to do something that he felt very uncomfortable with. So he asks God, and God says to him the most feminist line that ever was spoken. Whatever your wife Sarah tells you, you shall listen to her voice. Whatever she tells you, not only in this area, anything. So Abraham had clear knowledge of the spiritual superiority of his wife Sarah. We see that later with Yitzchak and Rivka. Yitzchak wanted to bless the wrong son. It is Rivka who explained to him that the one to be blessed is Jacob. Jacob was busy in the field tending to sheep. Who raised the Jewish family? His wives, Rachel and Leah. They're the ones who raised the tribes of Israel, where we all come from. So we see this, there's a miracle that we're told in 2 weeks, in the portion, in 2 weeks from now. There's a three miracles that happened in the merit of Sarah. The Friday night Shabbos candles she lit lasted all week. There was always a cloud of glory over the tent, and there was always a blessing in the dough. We find that when she passed away, these miracles stopped. And even though Abraham's still lighting candles, then it doesn't last the whole week. It's only when Rivka comes and takes over Sarah's spot, Sarah's position, that these miracles return. So we again see the superiority spiritually of our foremothers. And therefore, we know one of the most famous Jewish poems is a poem we sing on a Friday night called Lecha. Now we assume that this was written by King Solomon, the wise King Solomon, because it is in his book of Proverbs. But the Medrash says that this actually was authored by Abraham at the gravesite of his wife Sarah. That's why you see mention of all the days of her life. Who can find, meaning you can't find her anymore. And until the last day, there's a feeling in the Eshet Chayil, talking about a woman who has already lived her full life. And this is Abraham's speaking to Sarah. And in the Eshet Chayil, he says, Batach ba'lev baila. Her husband's heart trusts in her. Abraham represents the fact that he trusted in Sarah. He knew there was an angel of God who always went with her, as was borne out, and protected her. And he was certain of that protection that she would have. The question to him was he going to be protected? So he says, say you're my sister because I am connected to you, that I too be protected, just like you will be protected. I have no doubt, says Abraham, that you will indeed will be protected. As she was when she was taken to Pharaoh's home, the angel of God protected her, that nothing could happen to her. And then, of course, Pharaoh released her and gave her, and Abraham and Sarah went back to Israel. Says the Zohar, what do we learn from here? Abraham says that it's through Sarah that the Egyptians will give him blessings, will give him plenty, will give him money. And indeed, Abraham became wealthy, leaving Egypt. Going there in famine, he left a wealthy man because of the merit of Sarah. Says the Zohar, the Rebbe writes this in many letters. This teaches us that the blessing, the material blessing in a home, the financial blessing in a home, if you want to succeed with money and financially, it is due to the Jewish woman. So happy life, happy wife, happy life. It goes even further than that. If you want to make, if you want God's blessing in your home for material well-being, it is through making your wife happy. That's what we learned from this story of Abraham and Sarah. So gentlemen out there, put a little bit extra effort into making your wife happy, and her spiritual state will be the source of the blessing in your home. Good Shabbos.